Hey friendo, Steve here. Welcome back to the channel. So it's time once again to take a look at AEW because a couple of you out there had said, hey Steve, you don't do nearly enough videos on AEW. What's up with that? And so I did that CM Punk video 2 videos ago and you seem to like that one. So I figured why not do more on AEW? I had mentioned in that video, by the way, that the reason why I don't talk a lot about AEW here on the channel is because A, it's still relatively new, me doing nothing but wrestling content here at WrestleJuice. And B, AEW does a lot of things very right. I am a huge fan of AEW, especially now that they're signing all these great wrestlers who are like some of my favorites, like CM Punk, rumored Bryan Danielson, now maybe Bray Wyatt, Malachi Black. And I'm like, holy crap, they're really just building the wrestling company around what old Steve likes. And so it's difficult to criticize a company that does that. But I thought it would be fun to take a look at the very, very few things that AEW does that I'm like, you could actually do these things a little bit better. Maybe if you take some inspiration from old Visca Man over there at WWE. So I thought I would do today this video, 5 things that AEW can learn from the WWE. And before I get into this video, as always, do me a huge favor, a big solid for WrestleJuice. Hit that thumbs up button and hit that subscribe button. Let's help grow WrestleJuice. Let's dive into this. First up, shout out to everybody who left me a comment in the community thread when I asked the question, if you don't like AEW, what's your problem with it? Why don't you like it? Because there's like a ton of great responses there, and I'm going to take a look at those in a video coming up either later this week or next week, because I think there's some valid criticism in there, and I'd like to look at that stuff and give my thoughts about it, because I love to hear what you guys think. And so shout out to you. So some of these things here, I actually saw in those comments. And that goes for the first one here, which is number 1, the entrance music quality. The thing about WWE is that you can hear when somebody's entrance music is playing. You can go all the way back to how cool it was during the Attitude Era, of course, when that glass would break, or when you'd hear, if you smell, or even if like Jericho's music hit, however that started back then. And I feel like AEW produces their TV in a way that like doesn't emphasize the entrance music enough. I'll give you an example. And this has less to do with like the volume of the entrance music and just the philosophy behind entrance music. Darby Allin has some really great entrance music. I don't know what it is or who sings it, but it doesn't seem like it's a generic wrestler entrance music like a lot of AEW has, and I'll get to that in a second. But it starts off, the intro to his song, to his entrance music, is a bit on the meandering side. It just has that, whatever it is, I think it's a bass chord that goes dun 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 dun. And then it kicks into like the drums and stuff. Whenever Darby Allin makes a run in, which let's face it happens a lot on AEW, and they kick in his entrance music, instead of going straight to like the meat of the song, they play the intro too. And I feel like little changes like that can really like punctuate when somebody's gonna come out. And like, for example, the DX music, it has that great break it down and it's just there. It just happens and it's a gut punch, right? And I feel like they need to sort of hone their philosophical outlook on entrance music to make it more just like a gut punch, because that's what good entrance music should do. And on top of that, just jack up the volume a little bit, because we all love entrance music, right? They do a great job with their Trons, and I think a lot of their entrance music is great, but that gets me to number 2. They need better entrance music across the board. So many of the wrestlers in AEW have incredibly generic entrance music, and it's kind of a shame. Obviously, Tony Khan is sparing no expense when it comes to certain wrestlers. Jungle Boy has that one song that everybody knows. Oh, that one. CM Punk, of course, got called to personality. Jericho brought his own song. Darby has a really cool song, like I just mentioned. But beyond that, I'll be honest with you, there is a lot, and I mean a lot, of generic sounding music in the AEW. And I feel like that's something that could be changed with one man. That's right, Tony Khan. Why he hasn't hired Jim Johnston to revamp all those wrestler theme songs is beyond me. This dude from the Attitude Era on, probably even before the Attitude Era, would just banger after banger after banger. And apparently his very last entrance theme was Baron Corbin's, which if they'd start playing the damn song again without the King of the Ring stuff, that is one of my favorite modern day entrance themes is Baron Corbin's. I think it's great. And it's like, man, he's hired so many other people. All the like internet nerds would go ballistic if he hired Jim Johnston. And then on top of that, I mean, assuming Jim Johnston would want to work for them. On top of that, like all your wrestlers would then immediately have way better theme songs. How cool would that be? Pretty cool, right? So hire Jim Johnston, Tony Khan. My number 3 thing that I think they could learn from the WWE, because let's face it, WWE, they do have some really good theme songs over there, even now, even after like they let go of CFO $. Number 3, this is another thing that it's a relatively small thing, but it's kind of an important thing, and that's their TV production needs to learn how to capture their moments visually a bit stronger, a bit better. Say what you will about WWE's TV production. If you take away the crash zooms and the super fast edits during more frenzied moments, their TV production is actually really damn good. They are really good at capturing the emotion of moments when they happen. I'll give you a great example. A couple of weeks ago on Raw, it's probably about a month ago on Raw, when Ali and Mansoor teamed up for the first time. And there was that sequence when they were all of a sudden working really, really well together. Each cut on TV was perfectly done. There's that great clip floating around Twitter of the behind the scenes of CM Punk's return. And you see the director and he's just feverishly, oh my God, go to camera 10, prepare for camera 9, go to camera 6. And it's crazy. And like, that's apparently what it's like inside the booth. And I feel like, and I don't know the background of the director of AEW's television, but I feel like maybe, and I have no idea how this stuff goes down, but it does seem like there needs to be a little bit more communication between sort of the wrestlers, I guess, and the TV production, so that everybody knows where they're supposed to be to capture those moments. And I get the feeling that in WWE, one of the benefits of being micromanaged by Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn is that everybody knows where they need to be to make sure the cameras capture the entire story. A lot of complaints were levied at the blood and guts final moments when Jericho went flying off the top of that cage, which is a moment that still freaks me out, because that moment really wasn't captured all well. It looked kind of cheap when they did it because he had that big crash pad sitting there. So I feel like that needs to be improved a bit. And I think WWE has a really good system of doing it. Again, this might be because AEW does give their wrestlers a bit more freedom to go out there and just do stuff. Their TV production might have to improv a little bit more than WWE does, and it lessens the impact of those moments on TV. I'm just speculating, but I feel like sort of that's a sound guess as to what's going on. So maybe if they micromanage just a little bit, those big moments, then they'll be captured for TV a little bit more effectively, right? Number 4. This one is more of a philosophical story thing, and that's just slow down a little bit. Just slow down. I know WWE has like endless rematches and championship contender matches, and they tend to beat stuff into the ground, right? And I don't want AEW to do that at all. But there is something to be said for if two people have a match and somebody loses his title, that person who just lost his title might be in line for a rematch. I'll give you an example. Darby Allin again. He lost his TNT title to Miro, and then he never seemed to care about it. Like he was just like, okay, well, that guy has it now. I'm just going to move on to the next night. He was fighting like, I don't know, Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky or something like that. And I do feel like sometimes AEW seems to just want to keep going and keep going and keep going and keep going and not just settle down and let us soak in it a little bit, because maybe a little bit more would be better. A great example of this, of course, is when SCU was forced to break up in their match against the Young Bucks. And as Kazarian and Daniels were having this incredibly emotional moment, they cut away to somebody's locker room, which is being trashed. And it was like, whoa, wait a second. You need to milk that moment a little bit more. So that is sort of like a microcosm of like a larger I'm not even going to call it an issue with AEW. It's just something I feel like they can improve on. And maybe with time, Tony Khan will improve on that. Just letting things milk out a little bit more. Just milk things a little bit more. Just breathe, just relax. And if, somebody loses the title, hey, maybe they should reflect on it a little bit. Maybe ask for a rematch. Maybe say, hey, I want to get that back. That's something that I'd like to see in AEW, that WWE does a lot of, just milking the hell out of moments and then staying on them too long. I don't want AEW to do that, but WWE, they do know how to milk those moments a little bit better than AEW does. Probably sometimes too much. And this last one, I don't know if this is even possible. But I feel like AEW is lacking a little bit of that crazy old man unpredictability. Now, we all know Vince McMahon over there in WWE, he will change his mind on a whim, and these whims come fast and frenzied. However, it does keep their product to a degree somewhat unpredictable. Knowing what Vince McMahon is going to do the morning he wakes up when there's a pay-per-view is virtually impossible. And sometimes it makes for really compelling television. I'll give you an example, and it's one that I was there for, and that's when Seth Rollins cashed in on the Brock Lesnar-Roman Reigns match a couple years ago, back at WrestleMania 31. Apparently that wasn't even decided until the day that it happened. Apparently, Roman Reigns' own mom didn't even get word about this, and then she found out when he actually cashed in. And there's video of it. It's hilarious. Things like that. When Mustafa Ali was injured and Kofi Kingston took his place, and Vince McMahon was like, "Hey, this is a good time for a moment." And whatever plans he might have had for his title, he just sort of changed them. And then we got Kofi Mania. Just this past SummerSlam, we had the Becky Lynch moment, which everybody crapped on, but, this is a big but. If that moment ends up elevating Bianca Belair, let's say over the next 6 months, and she beats Becky Lynch and becomes their biggest mainstream crossover star, right? If that happens, that moment that Vince McMahon threw us at SummerSlam, which kind of took us all, out of the product, it sort of took us out of the pay-per-view, right? That's going to be, I'm not going to call it a genius move, but that's going to be a moment that really kind of mattered down the road when it plays out. And it's that crazy old man Vince thing where you can wake up and be like, hey, it'd be great if Goldberg beat The Fiend, although I think that was more Goldberg than anybody. But there are moments in WWE that are born out of simply Vince being Vince, some unpredictability. And you can even go back to the Attitude Era when that kind of stuff was done much more effectively. Had Tony Khan in 2021 been in charge back in 1999, who knows if we would have got that great moment on Raw when Mankind won the WWE title. And I look at that moment as one where it's I'm not sure exactly when it was decided, but given how much that WWE title changed hands back then, but it was always in a very organic, story-driven, character-driven way, and it was always a very exciting moment. And I wonder if those kind of moments would have happened had we got Tony Khan in charge back then, who seems to have a very deliberate approach to how he books everything. It seems like the AEW World Title scene, so far it seemed obvious that it was first going to be Jericho, then it was going to be Mox, and it was going to be Kenny. It seems obvious now they're going to wait for Hangman to change that title, and then probably MJF after him. I would suspect that after MJF it'd probably be Darby Allin, but at this point I guess you don't know because CM Punk, Daniel Bryan, and Malachi Black are all there. Bray Wyatt's going to be showing up, so it's possible that he might be changing the scene up a little bit because number one, he might realize that having a bigger name with the title helps your company. So maybe from Hangman it'll go to somebody like Malachi Black or Bray Wyatt. Even maybe CM Punk or Bryan Danielson. Bryan Danielson, yeah. I'm getting used to that name. And so I do feel like a little bit of unpredictability. I'll be honest with you. I kind of felt back when Orange Cassidy, Pac, and Kenny had their triple threat at whatever pay-per-view that was. How cool would it have been if Orange Cassidy won the title? That roof would have come off the place if Orange Cassidy won that title and then maybe lost it a couple days later on Dynamite. You know, it's like those kind of moments, if they don't feel forced, if they don't feel just to like they're being done just to pop ratings, they could be pretty damn effective. I feel like a little bit more unpredictability because generally speaking on AEW, you can kind of predict what's going to be happening, who's going to be getting titles off of whom. I feel like a little bit of unpredictability might help AEW feel like a little bit more of a dangerous place to work. And I mean that in a good way, in a story way, like, oh, anything can happen here. So that would entice people to tune in more because anything can happen. Worked during the Attitude Era for the WWE. Maybe it could work for AEW here in the year 2021. Anyways, that's it. Those are my 5 things. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you see anything in AEW that you look at WWE and be like, hey, they could lift that from WWE and probably improve their product? Let me know in the comments below. Like I said, give this video a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I appreciate it. Watch one of these other videos and I'll talk to you next time.